Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Carmen Chloe of SingleMarriedWidow.com, and today's video is video number 5 of the 5-part series Single Married Widow, how I became widow and some of the transitions that I went through immediately after my husband passed away. So in this video, it's entitled Back for the First Time, Moving Back to Florida. So in the last video, I shared with you all how we ended up transitioning back to Florida, but I knew that us being at my grandmother's house, even though it was comfortable, even though I was thankful, I knew that that was only going to be temporary as well. So at my grandmother's house, and I'm looking down at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. At my grandmother's house, it was the first time that I was able to literally sit in my grief. I had been through so many transitions from like, okay, we got to plan a funeral, we got to decide if we're going to do a cremation, a burial, do all of that, eviction, car getting repossessed, having to get another car, having to leave the place that we were living, temporarily staying in a hotel, waiting on my brother to come and get us. And we had been through so many transitions to where it was like, grieve. I don't have time to grieve. Like, I have to live life. I have to keep it moving. I have 2 children that are depending on me. Like, I literally had no time to grieve. And this is a part that I left out from the story. Before I left Georgia, while we were staying in the hotel, I was still going to Bible study at the church that I was attending in Atlanta. Extremely prophetic church, apostolic prophetic. So they will give you the word of the Lord, like what God is saying right now. Okay, not the Logos word in the Bible, but the Rhema word, which is the quickening of the Logos word of what's the quickening of the Logos word, the Rhema, which is what God is saying right now, because God is speaking. He's always speaking, okay? So one of the pastors at the church, they covered me, prayed for me after Bible study, and one of them, it was a young couple. The guy in the couple, he began to prophesy and say some things and confirm some things to me in relation to my late husband and just different things that I connected with that I knew were true. And he literally was like, this is gonna sound very weird to you, but I'm releasing a season and a spirit of grief upon you because you have not grieved yet. You don't sleep at night. You don't rest at night. You haven't grieved yet, okay? You need to grieve so that this does not turn into bitterness. You need to grieve. You need to process. And I felt everything that he was saying. It wasn't until I got to my grandmother's house and I was sitting still and there were no more transitions for a while. I didn't have to think about getting a job. Like, I didn't have to do anything except just be. So I had time to grieve. I had time to sit in all of those emotions. I had time to feel all of those emotions. I had time to process, like, wow, Zachariah like really died on me. Wow, we really got evicted. Wow, this really happened. Wow, I really don't deal with or talk to this person no more because of X, Y, and Z that happened during the whole process. Like, I had time to sit down and to process all of that, okay? So I was thankful for the time that I was able to grieve. I was thankful for the time that I was able to sit still. I was thankful that we were safe, that we had a place to live, that we had family to love on us, but I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable in my grandmother's home, not because there was anything wrong with the home, but because I was so used to having my own. So here I was back again in my childhood home that I grew up in the room that I grew up in, that I shared with my mom growing up. And I'm there with my children. So I was feeling uncomfortable. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling empty. The man who I had spent 10 years of my life with was no longer there. I was in a foreign land, even though it was the land that I was from. It was a foreign land because I didn't want to be there. I didn't know anything about the land anymore, okay? And I was also designed for me and my children to have our own place because we had always had our own place. So my brother and his family, they lived 2 counties away, okay, from the county that I was in. And we would go up there and we would visit. We would stay on the weekends. We would even house sit for my brother. And every time I would go up there, I would get this feeling. It was like a feeling of clarity. It was like a feeling of creativity. It was a feeling of peace. And I was like, I think I could stay in Florida if I moved to this county because it was just a different feeling. The way that I'm wired, I'm prophetic, if those of you know what that means. I'm a little bit more than prophetic, just prophetic, but I'm prophetic, so I feel different things when I go in different areas. So it was a different feeling from where I'm from to the county that my brother was living in, and I just felt really good in his area. So it opened up my mind to staying in Florida. But I was still trying to force my way back to Georgia because that's where my heart was at. That's where I felt connected to. So I literally, I landed an interview at a school where I had gotten my children into. They had gotten accepted into a charter school that I applied for them to go into for the following school year before I left Georgia. They got into the school. I ended up getting an interview. I went on like 3 rounds of the interview, but it didn't work out because, again, when you're marked by God, when he has plans for your life, he will allow certain things to happen, and certain things that he knows will take you in the wrong direction, he'll shut it down. So just like that, like, had 3 successful interviews and then didn't hear back from the lady. And then I heard back from her and she was needing some references from my old principal, looking for my old principal, found out my old principal had passed away. And it was like, oh my God, like, okay, God, I understand. And sometimes I can be hard-headed with God. And from my different patterns, I'll have to say like, okay, this is you shutting this down. So let me sit down somewhere and not try to force it, because I have forced things before and have literally had to like, yeah. So that was my sign. Like, okay, it's not time to go back to Georgia yet. Got it. So I had set my eyes on moving to my brother's county because I just love the feeling there. I love the way it felt to me. It felt like something I could do. Like I could stay in Florida if I went there. So I was able to get an interview at a school in my brother's county. Literally just one Sunday night in my grandmother's house, like literally mind racing, like, okay, what am I going to do to make my next move? Because I've always been resourceful. I've always been a person who can like make something happen, especially in careers and jobs and stuff like that. So I literally sent out emails to about 10 principals in the county that my brother lived in. And that night, one principal, she responded back to me. And I told her a little bit of my story and how I was looking for a job and in the county that I wanted to be in. And she responded and she was like, can you call me tomorrow for an interview? And I'm like, absolutely. And she was like, better yet, can you come up here tomorrow? And it was like an 1.5-hour drive away. And I was like, absolutely. So I called my mom like, look, I'm bringing the girls to your house early in the morning. I got an interview. Long story short, I interviewed. I got the job that same day. The girls were accepted into the school and I was able to get an apartment in that area. So it was as if God had opened up that region, that area for me. And we were able to get our own place. We were able to step into a new season, if you will. So that was like super exciting. And I felt like, okay, after all that we've been through, like, God, you're still like shining your light upon us. You still have your hand upon us. So it was like super duper duper exciting. So that worked out. You know, the girls were going to school. I was working at the school. And then, just like Abraham, something happened. And I had to pick up my tent and move again, but not in the way that you guys are probably thinking. But I will share that part of my story on the upcoming series. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and listening to my story. I release the peace of God unto you. I release clarity unto your mind. I release health and prosperity in your household, especially in the midst of everything that's going on in the world. And I will see you guys on the next video in the next series. Peace.